want to mention other two archetypes, which are Quickswap archetypes and Nilou. Quickswap means that you have another damage dealer that requires time on field to do their stuff. The most common example of a Neuvillette team like that is with Navia, which actually was a team I was looking forward to before Neuvillette came out. And it was also a great disappointment because, as I mentioned with the eye, Neuvillette, when played optimally, barely has any downtime in order to fit Navia in, and Navia would build Petra, struggle with energy recharge, and overall deal very underwhelming damage. So the team is fun and it's still nice. I mean, it's still a good team. It's just that you don't really gain anything by using Navia. You're just trading Neuvillette's uptime with Navia's, and this tends to be a not so good trade, honestly. But the team is still good because, let's be honest, it's still good. About Nilou, it's a totally cursed idea, but the reality is that it works. It's terrible for Neuvillette damage because you don't get 2 draconic stacks, you don't get interesting buffs because you don't get VV, you don't get damage bonus, you just have Hydro Resonance, which is fine I guess, and you get some Elemental Mastery from Nilou and Dendro Resonance for the blooms, but this is not for Neuvillette's talent damage. Still, Neuvillette has really nice numbers, so the damage is not too bad, and also the Hydro application is actually decent, and you know, with Nilou you don't really need much else. So the reality is that it's not among the best Nilou Bloom teams, and it's not among the best Neuvillette teams, but it's still a really good team anyway, so if you like it, just play it, it's actually fun. And now, let's briefly talk about Vape. I'm gonna say it. Vape is the ceiling of Neuvillette teams, but it's also really hard and not for everyone. I have team calculations for other teams, but I didn't include Vape because Vape is extremely peculiar. And to make it really shine, you need to meet certain requirements. First of all, only a bit more than half of Neuvillette's damage can be Vape because of ICD. But in practice, it's generally be quite less, around 40%. But even less, it depends on how things go. A full charge attack hits 8 times, and if we look closely, we can see that the hits that can be vaped are only the number 1, 4, 7, and the last one, the number 8. And by the way, this is just the first charge attack, because the second charge attack in a row is gonna have a different ICD lineup. Still, even vaping just 3 out of the 8 hits in a charge attack is a massive amount of damage. You would need roughly around 100 damage bonus from external buffs in order to compensate the damage increase from just those 3 vapes, which is totally nuts. And so where's the catch? Because of course there's a catch. You see, vape has mainly 2 problems, which are also strictly correlated because they both have to do with aura management. The first one is keeping uptime on buffs that require hydro reactions, like for example VV, who requires to swirl hydro. You want to maintain a pyro aura on the enemies in order to vape, and if you do that, then you won't be able to refresh VV. The second problem is that maintaining that pyro aura, it's actually really hard. If you know a bit of gauge theory, you might know that hydro is the strong element in a vape reaction and pyro is the weak one, which means that if you apply hydro on pyro, you will extinguish pyro very easily, but if you apply pyro on hydro, then it's gonna be hard to extinguish that hydro. And I'm oversimplifying here, but basically once hydro becomes the aura, it's really hard to get a pyro aura again. And overwhelming pyro with hydro is not just easy, it's almost certain. Remember when I said that you can apply hydro on the 7th and the 8th hits? Well, those are 2 hydro applications in a row, which are almost guaranteed to flip the aura from a pyro one to a hydro one. And at that point, bye-bye vapes. And this is why vape is so difficult to min-max. And sure, if you are really good, you can manage to not flip the aura by timing your pyro application in a very precise way, like this speedrunner did, but it's just crazy. Or you can exploit the very moment the aura flip to refresh VV, but that's also very difficult too. In general, you just want to clear stuff and kill enemies as fast as possible before things become a mess. And if you manage to do that before buffs like VV and Kazuha's A4 expire, then the damage profile is just crazy. And this is why vape is so good in speedruns and can feel underwhelming for not experienced players or players with not a high amount of damage output. It's because vape rewards fast clears with high front load. If you can't achieve that, the team is still fine, but it won't really shine compared to other options and other archetypes. If you want to enjoy vape, but in safe mode, you can just play Burnvape. In this archetype, you add a Dendro Plier, generally Naida, so that you can protect the enemy aura from Hydro overwhelming. This works because while Hydro is the strong element in Vape, Hydro is the weak element in Bloom. At the same time, when Pyro meets Dendro, it just triggers Burning, which is basically another fancy way to call Pyro. And indeed, you can still use Burning to trigger Vape, like if it was Pyro. Now, there's a very strong misconception around Burning team. For example, many decide to play this team not just because it's easier, but because they just don't want to play Xiangling, and they think that with Burning they can even apply more Pyro and trigger more Vapes. Fools. I'm sorry, but Burning doesn't give you more Pyro aura to Vape. This is not what actually happens in practice when you play Burnvape. Burning doesn't give you more Pyro aura to Vape, it just reserves a place for your Pyro application, while Hydro can't interfere, and that's why it makes Vape easy. This means that if your Pyro character applies Pyro just 6 times, you will Vape only 6 times, not one more. So I'm sorry, but Xiangling is still the king of Vape. And now let's dive into the part of the video I worked the most on, Purina and Double Hydro teams.